The day she walked into the parade ground, nobody expected her to stand out. She was just another face in the sea of uniforms, another soldier who had quietly endured the weight of her service without ever demanding the spotlight. Yet, before the day was over, every one of the 458 soldiers standing in formation would witness a moment so shocking, so unforgettable, that it would change the way they looked at her forever. It was the kind of moment when time itself slows, when silence grips the air, and when a single act of defiance echoes louder than 1,000 shouts. Because in front of all of them, she did the unthinkable. She stopped an admiral's hand not with fear, not with retreat, but by snapping his arm before their very eyes. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of standing up for what's right, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. It's your support that keeps these true-style stories alive, honoring those who fight battles both on the field and within themselves. Her journey didn't begin on that parade ground, though. It began years earlier, in shadows that few ever cared to notice. She was a young recruit, one of the few women in her class, and from the very start, she felt the stares, the doubts, the dismissive whispers. While others were praised for the same mistakes she was punished for, she carried her weight silently, swallowing every insult, every slight, every moment of being underestimated. To many, she was simply too soft or too fragile for the grit of military life. But beneath that quiet, beneath her lowered eyes, there was a strength forming, a steel that only pain and injustice could forge. As the years went by, her skills began to sharpen, not through privilege, but through relentless struggle. She learned to fight harder, run faster, and endure longer than those who mocked her. Yet still, recognition never came. She was stationed at posts no one cared about, assigned tasks meant to belittle rather than uplift. At times, she wondered if she even mattered in the uniform she wore. But she stayed. Not because it was easy, but because somewhere deep down, she believed that service was about more than rank or recognition. It was about protecting something bigger than herself. Then came the day of inspection, the day that would change everything. The Admiral, a man both feared and respected, was known for his temper, his strictness, and his lack of patience for anyone who didn't meet his impossible standards. On that morning, the soldiers lined up, 458 of them in perfect rows, boots polished, uniforms pressed, silence hanging in the air like a heavy curtain. She stood among them, her heart steady, her gaze forward, ready for whatever came. She had faced harder days than this, or so she thought. But when the Admiral's eyes landed on her, they didn't see the years of service, the discipline, the resilience. They only saw someone he considered weak, someone unworthy. He barked out words meant to humiliate, tearing at her dignity in front of the formation. She stood still, her jaw tight, her eyes fixed straight ahead. Then, in a moment that none could have predicted, he stepped forward, his anger flaring, his hand raised, not in command, but in an attempt to strike. The air froze. The soldiers held their breath, and then it happened. Her training, her pain, her strength, all of it surged into that single instant. She moved without hesitation, her hand intercepting his wrist, twisting with precision born from years of buried resolve. A crack split the silence. The Admiral's arm bent the wrong way, his face collapsing in shock as he stumbled backward. The parade ground erupted, not in noise, but in stunned silence so deep it was deafening. 458 soldiers who had seen everything now looked at her with wide, unblinking eyes. She had not just defended herself, she had shattered an unspoken wall of fear. In the hours that followed, chaos rumbled through the ranks. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some feared for her, certain that her career was over, that punishment would crush her for daring to stand against a superior. Others felt something different stirring in their chest, something like pride, like awe, like the sudden realization that courage doesn't always wear stars and stripes on its shoulders. Sometimes it stands quiet, until the moment comes when silence is no longer enough. The days after were heavy. Investigations began, reports filed, questions raised in hushed tones. She waited, uncertain of what her future would hold. She was prepared for the worst, discharge, disgrace, perhaps even more. But then something unexpected happened. The very soldiers who had once ignored her, doubted her, or dismissed her began to speak. They told the story of what they had seen, not as rebellion but as defense, not as arrogance but as strength. They stood for her because she had stood when no one else dared. Slowly, the tide turned. Her act was no longer whispered about in fear, but spoken of with reverence. What was supposed to be the end of her career became the spark that lit her legacy. She was reassigned, this time not to a forgotten post, but to positions where her skills, her resilience, and her leadership began to shine. Soldiers who once doubted her now followed her, not because of her rank, but because of the respect she had earned in that one unforgettable moment. And the Admiral? His broken arm healed, but the memory never did. In his silence, a lesson lingered, one that spread through the ranks like fire. Never mistake quiet strength for weakness. Because sometimes the ones you least expect are the ones carrying the heaviest fire inside them. Her story became a legend, not because she sought power, but because she stood firm when everything tried to break her. In the end, her courage was not just about stopping a hand raised in anger. It was about showing every soldier that dignity and respect are worth defending, no matter the cost. If this story touched your heart, I ask you to like, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. Every click, every comment, and every share helps keep these powerful true-style stories alive, reminding the world of the strength that lives quietly among us. And before you go, I have a special request. Comment below with the single word that best describes what this story meant to you. Your voice matters more than you know.